different aspects of radiography, basically. And now just that you see this bell type of thing, right? So radiography of the Liberty Bell. Liberty Bell is very famous. You can see, go to the internet and see what is the Liberty Bell. It's a very big bell. The photo reveals the famous crack as well as the iron spider installed in 1915 to support the clapper and the steel beam and so on, right? So it's a huge structure. Why they are showing it is that very, very big structures can also be done under radiography, under X-ray detection and so forth. And a smaller one can also be done. And the record is there and it is permanently there. But again, right, all that photographic record and cost and training. So very good technique, but difficult and expensive. Eddy current. So now they are shifting from the sound, right? Earlier it was sound, sonic, ultrasonic, acoustic. Then they shifted to X-rays. And now something called eddy current. It is a slightly new and more different method. So what is the principle? When an electrically conductive material is brought near an alternating current coil, remember, not direct current, AC, alternating current coil, that produces an alternating magnetic field, then surface currents called eddy currents are generated in the material. You know this from your basic physics and other things, that if there is a conductor and you pass electricity through it, then magnetism is also produced. Or if there is a magnetic field and you cut it with the conducting material, then electricity is passed, right? We even talked of induction furnaces and so on. They are based on a similar principle and so forth. So this is similar type of thing, but just that eddy currents, surface currents, eddy currents. You remember or you know the word eddy, that if there is water, right, in still water, and you drop a stone, then those wave patterns are created. Those are called eddies, the round patterns. So that is why this current is also called eddy currents, because just of the round waves. These surface currents generate their own magnetic field, which interacts with the original, modifying the impedance of the originating coil. Various material properties and or defects can affect the magnitude and direction of the induced eddy currents. So it is complicated. We will not go into a lot of detail, but the basis is that eddy currents are there. And when you do this and that part has some defects or flaws, then the travel of these magnetic fields due to the eddy current will be disturbed and they can be detected. Advantage, it can detect both surface and near surface irregularities applicable to both ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Versatile, can detect flaws, variations in alloy or heat treatment, variations in plating or coating thickness, wall thickness, crack depth, etc. Intimate contact with the specimen is not required. You don't need direct contact. Can be automated. Electrical circuitry can be adjusted to select sensitivity and function. Pass-fail inspection is easily conducted. High speed, low cost, and so on. So lots of advantages and so forth. Limitations, response is sensitive to a number of variables. So interpretation may be difficult. You see, eddy currents are produced, magnetic eddies are produced, and then they are disturbed by the crack. But if there is any other vibration, any other sound, any other electrical signal, then it will be disturbed, and it will be very difficult to see if something is because of a crack or some other thing. Sensitivity varies with depth, and depth of inspection depends on the test frequency. Reference standards are needed for comparison, and highly trained operators are generally required, because if eddy currents are coming, magnetic eddy currents are coming from a part without a flaw, then it is one type of pattern. Then when they are coming from a flaw area, then they are different. And maybe the magnetic flaws they come from steel are different than from aluminum alloys and so on, right? So very, expensive plus high training again. Limitation response is sensitive. We just did the limitations. Material limitations only applicable to conductive materials, right? If they are not conductive, because it is electricity based, right? Current based. So metals can be done. Some difficulties may be encountered with ferromagnetic materials. So even in metals, if there are those metals which can be magnetized, then you have an issue because their own magnetic field plus the eddy current. And if there are non-magnetic materials or non-conducting materials, then you can't do this. Geometric limitations, depth of the penetration is limited. We already told you that surface and subsurface must have accessibility of the coil or probe. Constant separation distance between coils and specimen is required for good results, right? I mean, you have to keep the probe at a constant distance with the piece when you are, right? You are not touching it, but when you move it along, then the distance. Permanent record is, of course, can be recorded, right? So one of those techniques, again, which are higher level. We were just talking of eddy current. So now I am showing you an actual picture, a real one, that this is the eddy current machine. And from there a probe and so on. And if you can see that whole wire, and this probe is going inside. So whatever parts are there, we can put the probe outside in any hole, inside on any hole, and it will show whatever is happening there. So the operator has to be very trained. He has to know what type of defects and so on are being shown. And a record can also be there. But it is a portable system, right? It is like a small bag, a small laptop and so on, and it can be carried to any inspection places. So this is eddy current testing in reality. Thermal inspection, right? I mean, as you can see with the picture down below, if there is any heat and if we have photographic techniques to measure the heat, then different temperatures come as different colors and so on. You see in all of those movies nowadays where army attacks and this and that are there, that behind a wall, inside a room, thermal imaging can be done so that we know that there are 3 people, 4 people, what are their locations and so on. So that is the thing, right? So what is the principle? Defects in the workpiece such as cracks, poorly made joints, debonded regions, etc., cause a change in the temperature distribution. So a part is there and the whole part has some temperature distribution, but wherever there are cracks, you see temperature has to flow, right, through a conducting medium. If there is a crack, there is a disruption in the flow of temperature, in the flow of heat. So therefore, in a thermal image, then all those cracks and flaws will come as different colors and so on. So again, you will have to be trained in reading the thermal image, but this is a major thing. The cost will be big. It will not be a very simple thing, but then it will give you a very continuous image and so on. Holography is even bigger. In general, I think many of you have heard of holograms and holography. Yes, you are right if you are saying that. You see, nowadays, there is a music performance. There is a show going on. I mean, we are in some other city, but in the other city, they can also make a very big stage and transfer the images from here to there. The real one is happening here, and there also by holographic techniques, holograms, they can show the same person and he's singing and he's dancing and so on. So this is holography. The principle is interferometry. Interferometry in your physics and so on, you have done interference and so forth. So if there are stressed states because of flaws and cracks and so on, then holography can be used. Here I'm showing you just the schematic, the laser beams, right? Mirrors, lenses, a specimen. So beam coming from one side, beam coming from the other side. There is a difference in a normal material and in a stressed out material. So this can show you. But the previous one that I just showed you and this holography, the thermal imaging and holography, are very costly, very advanced. They are not used in normal industries and so on. And I keep telling you that you see all the techniques where we stress and where we explain more are the ones which are used around you in different companies and manufacturing organizations here or in the region. But we just should know the names. So now I'm not showing you the details of thermal imaging, the details of holography. If you are interested, you can go to the YouTube and other places and you can find it. Of course, if you and I, anyone ends up in a company which is doing very high level work and they need thermal imaging and they need holography and so on, then within a week or so we will be trained. So that is never an issue. Destructive testing, right? All the techniques that we did until now, the dye penetrant, the magnetic particle, eddy current, all those are non-destructive. The part is there, there is a flaw, there is no flaw, there is a crack, there is no crack. We are just inspecting it. We are not breaking the piece. Destructive testing, of course, like impact test, right? Like tensile test and all those where we take the part and we break it. So usually we don't do it on the real part. We do it on a sample of the part, right? So this is destructive. Hardness, we mentioned earlier, is between the two ends because hardness does not completely fracture or break the part, but wherever we take a hardness measurement, there is a dot left on the surface. So if we have done 3 or 4 hardness readings, then there are 3 or 4 permanent dots on the surface. If the surface is very critical, if it is a part which will slide against the other part, then we have destroyed it in a way. But otherwise, if it is to be used later on and only on 2 or 3 small places there are small dots on the surface, then it is not destroyed. So it is not fully non-destructive, it is not fully destructive, so hardness is in between, but that is it. Here then, right, destructive testing, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Non-destructive testing, what are the advantages and disadvantages? I keep on telling you that if you are an intelligent person, which you definitely are, if you have a general background in science, now you have several years of engineering, then you can directly tell us, right, that for example, you see, if you want to find the material properties, yield strength and ultimate strength and so on, then you cannot do it with non-destructive examination. You have to do testing. So this has advantages and so on. But the major disadvantage is that the part will be broken. So you cannot do it on the real thing. So you just go through, read through them, but you will see that if you try to think, then you can list all the advantages and disadvantages yourself. And then you can see that, oh yes, I can read it here also. Now, the last part of the chapter, quality assurance. I have asked you earlier in the beginning, I will remind you, you should be very clear about what is quality control and what is quality assurance, right? I have worked in these departments. Now some parts are produced. If they are defective, they should not go to the customer. The customer will get a bad part, your reputation will go down. So quality control inspectors inspect the part to find out if it is okay or not. If it is not okay, they reject it. If it is rejected, then a decision is made whether this can be repaired and then sent out, or now it has to be totally scrapped. So they control which parts should be written okay and which parts should be not. So this is quality control. Quality control means just to inspect the quality and see whether they should go out or not. Quality assurance is something else. Why was the problem there? Was it an operator error? Was it a machine error? Was there a problem in the design office? Was it some other issue? So you try to make sure that problems do not happen in the future. This is quality assurance. So this is much bigger than quality control. Quality control is sort of a subset of quality assurance.